Hello. Hi. Welcome back to the channel. My name's Aaron. I buy, sell, trade, collect, vet, and grade. Rolls off the tongue, doesn't it? Welcome back. Today's Tuesday. Wednesday? Wednesday. And I don't know when you're going to watch this. Friday, maybe. Thursday. Not sure. But today's video, we're going to talk about Phantasmal Flames or Phantasmal Fumes. I am trademarking that one. Coined it. Mine. Someone else probably already said it. The latest and greatest set. And, normally I don't like talking about the latest and greatest sets. But I have to say, I generally am excited for this set. Primarily I was going to say Vietnamese. Vietnamese Pokemon cards. That would never sell. Japanese. Sorry. I did not sleep well last night, and I'm going to go get my blood drawn, and so I have not ate, which I typically don't. But anyway, I'm excited for it in Japanese because of print quality, and I like the big English kind of the moves that are being laid out in English text, American text, whatever text. I like that design. I'm excited for the English counterpart, primarily because I just want some of that set for long term as a collector. And I thought I'd talk about it today so we can go through a little bit of history lesson with the previous Charizard sets so that we can kind of level set and maybe you can learn a thing or two and hopefully it'll help you navigate this crazy market that we're in. So one thing I've learned, I will say, is there's generally a rubric or a template of Pokemon where if they release a product, the odds that product are going to do better are probably going to be higher than if they release like a what's that Scarlet Violet Pokemon that looks like Stonehenge, Tinglu or something like that. With the little plate, the rock plates, like nobody cares for that, right? But if you're talking about a popular Pokemon like Charizard, it checks one of the boxes. The opportunity or potential for it to be an interesting collector's item or investor's item or something that people want to buy typically goes up, right? It makes sense. It's a popular Pokemon. It's probably the most popular outside of Pikachu. So the set has that going for it. Now, I will say, if you've been around since Sword and Shield or even prior to that, there's been a lot of different Charizard specific products that have come out. Some that come to mind for me are the Charizard UPC, which back in the day when Sword and Shield was fully in motion, I mean, that box pre-ordered for like $200, I think. And then it dropped down to like 150s and 120s at retail. And then at a point, people were selling them for like 80, $90, I think. I have like 10, I think, 8 or 10 in storage that I bought just because it was so cheap. Great pack, good enough pack selection. Promos are on point. At one point, I actually had a stack of like 30 of the sealed promos that I bought. I opened a bunch, I bought a bunch, and I was going to grade them. But the first batch that I sent in, I must have sent like 3 or 4 full sets. So 3 of each of the cards. There's 3 cards, right? And I didn't get a single 10. So instead of buying the 10s, I kind of just gave up and I sold the rest of my promos. And I didn't really have that long-term mindset at the time. And I ended up selling for like, I don't know, each sealed pack was like $30 or something like that. I sold it on eBay. And I remember when that thing came out, good old Alex, good old Nostalgianomics. I remember because one of his first videos he made back then, he talked about there's Charizard fatigue. And I chuckled because it's like kind of true, kind of not. But it's also one of those things where it's like, it's more whether or not a product does good is more so related to the sentiment of the market, generally speaking, not, I think, than not the actual product. And so, I think the Charizard UPC wasn't really wanted for a while. It was super cheap. And now look at it. I think each box is like $350. So, the tides can turn in your favor if you're someone who's a long-term speculator, long-term holder, long-term collector for a product like that. And I would say, arguably, Charizard UPC is probably the best English-based Charizard product that's come out in. Wait, let me think about this before I'm gonna bite my tongue, huh? No, I think that's true. Yeah, I'll stand by that. I think it's probably the best, if not one of the best, Charizard-based sealed products that's come out in the last decade. Definitely the last 5 years. So you have that product. Prior to that, you had Machampion's Path. Now, if you're not familiar with Machampion's Path, I I was just watching a video from Pokeplumber today, and he said he pulled the Charizard VMAX in the first 3 packs. It took me 150 packs, I think, before I pulled that stupid Charizard. 150 packs. I bought 100 packs at like $5 each, $6 each, I think, from the collector store. It's a store out of Missouri. I bought them all loose because it's a specialty set. It can't be weighed, whatever. And I remember, and I opened up that set, 100 packs in one sitting. Did not get a single Zard of either sort, the shiny Charizard V or the rainbow Charizard V Max. And that pulling experience, the reason why they call it Machampion's Path is because there's Machamp Hollow that comes in reverse hollow that you would get. And it would, you would get a ton of them because it's one of the hollows. The other cards in that set, you have a Gardevoir, Rainbow Rare. You have a full art Venusaur V. You have that cake, Alchemy. I don't know where they were going with that one. It's basically a giant cake. Alchemy VMAX, both in regular VMAX and then in Rainbow. And then Centiskorch. They had a bunch of crap. Basically, the only hit that you want is the Charizards. So the V and the V Max. And then maybe you want the Gardevoir Hyper Rare. Why do I say it like that? Gardevoir. Like a reservoir. Gardevoir. Gardevoir? Gardevoir in Rainbow. Maybe you would want that too. The set was basically just the Machamp. The Charizard. And going into this set, people really wanted it for the same reasons. Oh my God, it's a Charizard. It's the rainbow version. We don't have a rainbow version yet. Like there's so much excitement. It's so hard to get. It's a specialty set. And I remember pre-ordering boxes for like 100 and 120 before it came out. And the price for Champion's Path, actually, the ETB actually never really wavered below like $80 from what I recall. So it'd been sitting at like the 80 to 100, 110 mark really since release. But I will tell you, after it came out, whether that's because the release cycle, release calendar, or whatever else, people stopped talking about it. People don't care anymore. The population for the Rainbow Zard, the Rainbow Charizard is, I think it's like 20,000 or something. I just checked the other day. The promo in ETB, I think, is still one of the most created promos. And so, there was immediate, I would say, fatigue, because I think people realized that the hype and then the supply didn't really sustain itself. And therefore, over time, people didn't view it as a good product. Now, I will say, what is going to happen in the next 3 or 6 months, and I swear by this, Scout's honor. On my honor, I would do my best. That's the Scout's honor, right? In the next 3, maybe less months, Champion's Path is probably going to go on a run because it's been too long. It's been, 4 years, 5 years? It's a Charizard set. There's not a lot of them on market on eBay. So if you look at PSA 10s, for example, the Rainbow Zards, and the prices have been below 350, 400 for quite some time. So that's just my guess. These things happen like clockwork. This is how the hobby works. But I just wanted to highlight that set because it goes to show things fall in favor and excitement builds and people want it. Things come out, and then you realize, oh, there's too much supply. Pull rates are this, pull rates are that, you know, for whatever reason. And then that hype, no matter what the set is, eventually plateaus, and then it might go dormant or it might go up. It This things happen like clockwork, right? Now let's go back further to the one and only Darkness Ablaze. Now I have a great history of Darkness Ablaze. In one of the first, so when Darkness Ablaze came out is when I first got back into the hobby. Actually, I came in like shortly after. And one of the first big purchases I made was 108 loose packs from Hills Wholesale Gaming. And those packs cost like $3 each. And at the time, I was a degenerate collector, ripper. I literally spent like, I would spend my weekends, shipment would come in Wednesday, Thursday, spend Friday, Saturday, just ripping everything from Sun and Moon and to Sword and Shield. And in those first 108 packs of Darkness Ablaze that I ripped, I got 3 of the Charizard VMAXs. And that's my best memory of Darkness Ablaze and early on in that era. I couldn't believe it. Like, getting the top hit in a set from a booster box in itself is not exactly easy to do, right? It's not expected. It would probably take you a few booster boxes, if not more. But to get it from 36 loose packs and get it 3 times, that's quite the accomplishment. Anyway, Darkness Ablaze. I can only tell you what I recall after it came out, because I don't think I was actually involved in the hobby before it came out. And going into Vivid Voltage, I actually don't have strong memories of Darkness Ablaze. I just remember that it was a Charizard set. The packs were cheap and they were readily available. I don't remember there being a lot of buzz. I do remember it being relatively easier to pull than most other Charizards. At least that's what I heard. And so, when you zoom out though, at the tail end of Sword and Shield and going to Scarlet and Violet, Darkness Ablaze outside Rebel Clash and Sword and Shield base is looked at as one of the worst Sword and Shield sets, right? Because the only thing it really has going for it is the Charizard. Everything else in that set is kind of a wash. And there are so many of those cards listed raw, at least there were at the time, and in PSA 10, that there was enough a demand to meet with how much supply there was in the market. So I won't say, though, my prediction through today is Darkness Ablaze is going to go on a run. I am not that confident, but the booster boxes are like pushing 400 plus. You never know. These things tend to age over time. They could go either way. We saw this happen with X and Y and Sun and Moon. So that's Darkness Ablaze. I actually forgot one set, and we should talk about Brilliant Stars, because Brilliant Stars, if you weren't around, straight out of the coattails from Evolving Skies, and I think Celebrations, right? Or was that? Anyway, Evolving Skies is a great set. I would say there's a good amount of anticipation for Evolving Skies, but from my perspective and what I recall, when Brilliant Stars was announced and that Charizard V was leaked out of China or something like that, people lost their mind. And I don't think this gets talked about enough. Maybe this is just how I viewed it, but people were really excited for Brilliant Stars coming out prior to it coming out. Like, oh my God, they recreated the iconic scene between Charizard and Venusaur. It's a full art, alternate art, whatever. Like, his position, he's breathing fire. Like, I remember there just being so much hype for that set prior to it coming out. And then it comes out, and I mean, people were still excited, but I don't think there was the same level of carryover as there was with Evolving Skies. And fast forward through today, up until a couple months ago, Brilliant Stars booster boxes, Brilliant Stars as a set, no one really talks about, right? No one really paid attention to. And now that it's aged and it's done well, it's starting to go up. So why do I give this really low quality history lesson on Charizard and Charizard sets? It's to give perspective on what to expect with Phantasmal Flames. Now, I, for one, am hoping that I can pre-order this thing and get a booster box through Pokemon Center and get the PCETB. I am on the PCETB train if I can get it for cheap. But even on secondary market, I would actually be willing to pay up to 300 for the PCETB. That seems like a lot, but based on how things are going so far, it actually doesn't seem like a crazy price to pay. Look at Prismatic, 350 at PCETB. Look at the other sets. I, for a long time, kind of held on PCETBs aggressively. And now I feel like it makes sense. There's enough demand and the market is mature enough to absorb all the supply that's coming to the market. So I will try to get my piece from Pokemon Center. Will I order some cases? I'm probably going to have to pay like $250, $300 a box, which is way more than I want to spend. But my circumstances, right? If I choose to do that, it's because I'm in a position where I'm going to say, all right, I'm going to flip. I'm going to be able to take some of the money I would get from grading and flipping and that kind of selling sealed, and I want to park that into Phantasmal Flames. It's a way different decision tree for me as someone who runs this side hustle, this business, to do that than it is for me to say, hey, everyone, you should go out and buy Phantasmal Flames, right? And I think that's the key thing to recognize with every new set that comes out is it's not a matter of you should buy it or not. It's more so does it make sense given your opportunity cost and where you are? And I don't think that's ever going to get talked about enough. I don't think people want to hear it. But at the end of the day, that's really what matters. Because if you can buy a set like Journey Together when it first came out at 180, 200, right? And you feel good about your financial situation and you can afford to spend that money, that purchase at that point in time may be a way better purchase than buying Phantasmal Flames at 300, 350 when you're strapped for cash and you're stressed and you don't have the ability to actually make this work. And so, I think there's a lot that we can learn from the previous sets that focus on Charizard. That's for sure. But I also think that we can learn a lot by just waiting. And I'm not saying I'm not part of the wait for MSRP game. I actually don't believe that anymore. I'm not saying you should wait, it's going to drop or anything like that. The value and benefit of waiting is you allow everyone else to take on the risk and prove out the market for you. And one cost analysis, one trade-off analysis that you need to do is it worth it for you to lock in the price today, given all the different variables that could happen? You have a reprint, you have decreased demand, you have market price going down. These are all real factors that come in if you buy too early, right? I'm not saying again that it's going to go back down to MSRP or you should wait that long or anything like that. I am just saying that when we think about risk, it's about proving out. It's about proving out some of these scenarios and having other people go through and deal with that for you. And so when I view a set like Phantasmal Flames, oh my God, this set's going to be amazing. I don't feel like I have to FOMO buy it from day one because I'm like a trained dog at this point, right? I still believe a lot could happen to the market. And I don't think if you're new, you would ever believe that because you've never seen it, right? If you've never seen it, it's hard to believe. And so really, you're hearing a bunch of people who sound like your parents telling you what to do, but you want to hang out with all the cool kids in school and do what they're doing, which is go buy everything at release. And so for me, I will try. I will try at release. I will secure some. I fully intend on buying this set heavily, but will it be today, next month, next year, 2 years from now? I don't know. And the trade-off for me is I'm willing to sacrifice that amount of money that I will probably have to pay more of, right? Potentially, I'm willing to sacrifice that to feel damn good about the decision I'm going to make because I'll be honest, I don't like feeling anxious about these purchases. I don't like feeling anxious about spending more than I need to on certain cards. It's an unnecessary stress. And I'm okay to spending more later if it means I can have someone else, some other people, the market alleviate those concerns for me. And that's a privilege. I think that is one of those experiences that you go through in the past when you get burned, when you buy certain sets for too more, or you buy too early, or you FOMO in. And really, this all comes back from learning learning from FOMOing on the wrong things at the wrong time. That's really where this comes from. So, I'm buying into the hype that this set is awesome. I think you should too. The set looks amazing. We don't even know what's in the set. I'm already pumped for it. And typically I don't feel like this, right? But I'm not gonna lie and say it's not the feeling that I have. But it doesn't mean I'm gonna mortgage everything. I'm gonna drop everything and buy it. I did do this with Magic the Gathering Final Fantasy. I went aggressive into it. I was able to make a lot of the money back. I got damn lucky because opening the packs, selling the singles, grading the top hits, that all netted, some pretty positive returns. You cannot do that with Pokemon. You cannot do that with the latest and greatest Pokemon sets. You cannot do that with sets in general in Pokemon. You're not going to make enough money back from opening the sets and grading the hits because the gem rate on these cards is unreliable and there's not enough value in each of the boxes to really help you be profitable. So I have to be cautious here. And I would recommend you do the same thing as well. Just wait it out. There's actually not, I don't want to sound like I'm like on a pedestal, but sometimes the best thing you can do is curb the addiction of wanting to acquire and just wait. And it technically doesn't cost you anything outside of maybe some small future potential profit. Look at Distant Rivals. I think a lot of Distant Rivals bag holders are saying, told you, this is a great buy. And I would say up until that $300 mark, I would have bought Distant Rivals and not felt guilty about it and not had any level of, you know, regret because I let the market figure out the price and the demand for me. Now, there's still some risk with that set. I don't think it's going to repurchase in the ground or anything like that. But there comes a point where you have to figure out how to value your time and your money and the opportunity cost. And is, locking things in today, is that more meaningful to you than having the market figure out for you, is this worth it or is it not? And to each their own. That's not easy to answer. There's not one way to answer it. But I think everyone, sorry, I gotta flip my GPS. To 180 South, I-280 South, Higgins Boulevard. Okay. Kind of lost. Everyone eventually learns that. And conveniently, it comes with age and experience. So, what are you going to do? Are you going to buy Phantasmal Flames? Are you bought in that it's Charizard set? It's checking the boxes. Um, it's definitely checking the boxes. I'm not going to lie and say I'm not excited. All right, that's all I got. Phantasmal Fumes or Phantasmal Flames? One will never know. We will never know until it's out. And then 6 months from now, everyone starts saying, I told you so. That's all I got for you guys. Don't take unnecessary risks. Don't over leverage yourself. Be happy with your purchases. Be a collector first, and you'll enjoy the hobby. That's all I got. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.